Welcome back to the channel. So today's question is partition array according to the given pivot. So in this question we have to arrange the relative order of the vectors element in such a way that the smaller value less than the pivot should be on the left side and the greater than the pivot should be on the right side, and if they are equals to the pivot they are placed in between the left side and the right side. And while building the answer vector we have to maintain the relative order of all the elements. So let's move toward the intuition part, how we are gonna solve this question. Now coming towards the intuition part, how we are gonna solve this. So I will build two vectors. So I have created two vectors, before pivot and the after pivot, where before pivot will have the elements which are smaller than the pivot. Here the pivot is 10, so element less than the 10 will come in the before pivot and element greater than 10 will come in the after pivot. One thing to notice that I will create a variable. This same variable is created to store all the elements which are equals to the pivot, and mention in the question the element which are similar to the pivot they will place in between. Let's say I start moving from the starting. 9 appears before the pivot, so we put it in the before pivot. 12 appears greater than the pivot, so it's coming the after pivot. Now 5 is smaller. Here comes the 10. We will just increase the value of this same element. Now 14 is greater, 3 is smaller, and 10 appears again. So one thing you can see that clearly, when we iterate from starting to the end, we are maintaining the relative order how they occur in the vector, and we have put them in the before pivot and the after pivots, so their relative order is maintained. One final thing, that how answer will be stored. Now you can see that I have just defined answer equals to before pivot and after pivot. Here I will put the value of before pivot which is 9, 5 and 3. Then same is which appears two times, so 10 appear 2 times. Now you can see that after pivot is 12, 14. Now you can clearly see that we have got our answer, which you can match it with the output vector, which is 9, 5, 3. We got 9, 5, 3. 10, 10, we got 10, 10, we got 12 and 14, and we got 12 and 14. So that's our answer. That's how we are going to solve this question. Now moving towards the code part. So n is the length of the vector. Now I have defined 3 vectors, before pivot, after pivot and answer. As I have told you earlier in the intuition part, before pivot will store the values which are smaller than the pivot, after pivot will store the values which is greater than the pivot, and answer is the final answer we are going to return. Is same, we will just count the number of values which is equals to the pivot. Now I have iterated over the nums vector, and if the value is smaller than the pivot we stored it in the before pivot. If it is greater than the pivot we store it in the after pivot vector, and if it is equals to the pivot we just increment as same variable. Now we are gonna store them in the final answer vector. So here I have just created the answer vector with the before pivot, after pivot and is same values, which is clearly you can see that it's just a basic iteration over the before pivot, and while loop for is same, just decrementing it till I got the 0 value in the same variable, and just after pivot iterating over the after pivot and putting all this value in the answer. And overall we are just maintaining the relative order. So we miss 0 over here, that's why it's giving memory limit exceed. Now coming to the time and space complexity. So the time complexity is big of n, we are just iterating over the nums vector, and for space complexity it is also gonna big of n, because we have defined 3 vectors, which is so we have defined 3 vectors before pivot, after pivot and answer. All of them have the time space complexity of big of n, because all of them can store at max of n length of their values. So that's the time and space complexity, both of are big of n, big of n. Now the conclusion of the question is that we have to just focus on how we can store the relative order. For storing the relative order, we have just in one pass we have just stored the values in the before pivot, after pivot, which doesn't disturb their relative order. So that's how we easily got the answer. So that's the solution. Thank you for watching this video. Like, comment and share. The code is in the GitHub link.